We're honored to have today as our guest Jason Silva. One of the most interesting points that you covered in your recent talk at the Singularity Summit of 2011 was the role of storytelling, narrative, and by implication aesthetics.
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, there's a problem with a lot of the way the vision of the singularity is being explained to people. Certainly, you can reach a subset of the population with graphs and mathematical projections and whatnot. I think that's great, obviously, but it's a little too dry to reach the mainstream. And the reason is that people tend to respond to what moves them. Presentation is as important as the ideas that are being presented. Art design, right? Representation, framing, aesthetic relevance. How do you imbue ideas with meaning and with a sense of the meaningful underneath them, so that these memes become viral, so that they infect the person's imagination and they have this urge to spread the idea, like an inception that just spreads and everybody feels inspired by it.
To be so exclusively sensitive to even minute doses of hallucinogens.
Damasio's pointing out, I think rightly so, that the emotional motivation and component of human experience and thought itself is too often discounted in our culture because, let's face it, of Plato and Aristotle.
Absolutely. I just think that, it's like Roland Barthes, poet, wrote in A Lover's Discourse. He said that fulfillment literally means to overflow, to exceed totality, to be more than full, to the point that you spill over. And if the purpose of life is to be fulfilled, to have a life that is nourishing and that you wake up every morning with a sense of purpose and cosmic heroism, it's going to involve this idea of fulfillment, and it's a very kind of emotional experience that is to be more than full. So when people talk about, the role of aesthetics or aesthetic arrest, I mean, who doesn't like to be held in aesthetic arrest, to be frozen by something that moves you, to be dumbstruck by awe, to be pushed to the limits by an IMAX film of the Hubble Space Telescope showing you the infinity of the cosmos in 3D, and you're sitting there watching it, gawking at the ubiquitous wonders that exist at all times in the entire universe that we're culturally conditioned to ignore. How sad is it that due to hedonic adaptation and our overly busy lives, we fail to apprehend the awe of the infinity that surrounds us at every moment? And aesthetics is the term to where that recognition of beauty and curiosity and wonder and awe permeates the human experience. We mediate it to this idea, okay, this is what aesthetics are, this is what the opera and the arts and this and that, but it's really everywhere. I mean, Leonard Shlain wrote Art and Physics. These are two sides of the same coin. Truth, beauty, philosophic wonder, aesthetics, all join forces. Well, you have just opened up the whole debate about like Apple versus like Windows or other PCs. You know, like most personal computers at one time were seen as like pragmatic and utilitarian, and it took Steve Jobs and Apple to imbue a reverence for beauty and aesthetics and a sense of design to these products, where they became more than just functional objects. They became, by all, you know, they became works of art. They became transcendent. I mean, people talk about falling in love with their iPhones. I mean, it's a thing of beauty. When engineering reaches a certain level of complexity, it becomes simple. So a complexity that hits a crescendo where then it becomes simple, and it feels like, oh yeah, this makes sense. I mean, when you look at the technology of the touchscreen in Apple products versus some others, you know, it's almost too perfect in the Apple product. It's so simple, but that simplicity requires all this engineering and all this complexity behind it. And I think that they really understood that. And you know, when I go to the theater or watch a film like Inception, I'm in awe not just at the ideas that are explored, the ideas that literally spill over and burst through the screen and give me an epiphany, but I'm also impressed by the design and the visual effects of the way those ideas are portrayed in this narrative that becomes real. You know, cinema is, I think, the most impressive art form that we've ever created, and it's the ultimate potentially form of aesthetics that we have thus far, but also a great way to transmit pragmatic information. You know, there's no better way to make people smarter than by giving them content that epiphanizes them. If you can make that content beautiful, and if you can make it entertaining, then you've won.